Welcome to Season 2 of the More You Know Media and Tech Literacy series, produced by Independent Thinker, LLC. The More You Know Media and Tech Literacy series is a quarterly educational initiative that helps individuals and communities better understand the realities of today's digital ecosystem. In Episode 11, we cover Election 2026. Are you informed or influenced? We turn the mic to Tommy and Gina for an insightful discussion about this topic.
Usually, when you look at a photograph or, read a news headline, there's this ingrained expectation of objective reality.
Right. We crave that level of certainty.
Exactly. I like to think of it like a medical x-ray. You hold the film up to the light, you look at the bone, and it's either broken or it's not. I mean, it's a binary physical truth.
Yeah, human brains are just completely wired to want facts to be visible, neatly categorized, and undisputed.
But then you step into our current digital landscape, and suddenly that x-ray machine is it's completely scrambled.
Oh, totally. The film is cloudy, the machine might be, hallucinating the break.
Right, and the technician might be getting paid by a cast-making company. It's wild.
Yeah.
We are looking at an information ecosystem that is incredibly murky. So our mission today is to cut through that murkiness for you, the learner, and uncover the hidden forces that are actively shaping your reality in the digital age.
And to do that, we are synthesizing some truly brilliant source materials. We're pulling actionable strategies from a recent webinar by the News Literacy Project, which is a nonpartisan education nonprofit focused on navigating election misinformation.
And we are combining that with some deep structural research from Privacy International, right?
Exactly. They're a global human rights charity founded back in 1990 by Simon Davies, and they defend privacy worldwide. We'll be looking specifically at their podcast discussions on global tech news, surveillance, and micro-targeting.
So we're going to start with how your own social media profile is weaponized to influence your vote. Then we'll travel to the global south where cheap phones act as surveillance Trojan horses.
Right, and finally we'll look at how the exact same data-driven AI hype is being used to make life and death decisions in war zones.
And in the bathroom, bizarrely enough.
Yeah, we'll get to that part later.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with how your own attention is being weaponized at this microscopic level on your smartphone.
Well, the research from Dr. Kate Dommett, which Privacy International really highlights, it maps out a massive shift in how political messaging actually works today.
Right.
Think about a traditional political billboard on the side of a highway. Every single person driving past sees the exact same slogan.
Yeah, it's public. Everyone experiences it.
Exactly. It's verifiable, and it creates a shared reality. If the billboard makes a wildly false claim, a journalist can point a camera at it and debunk it for the whole town. But online micro-targeting just destroys that shared reality entirely. Dr. Dommett actually calls it a Wild West.
But wait, I understand campaigns using public voter rules. If a campaign looks at public records to see if you're a registered voter and then mails you a pamphlet, that makes sense. That's just standard practice.
Oh, sure. That's totally normal.
But the sources are talking about campaigns buying commercial data from places like Experian or, relying on inferred data from social media. I guess I'm wondering, how does buying a pair of shoes translate into a political target?
Right, so that's where the algorithm's pattern recognition really takes over. Platforms, they don't just track what political pages you like. They track your entire digital footprint.
Wow. Everything.
Everything. They look at millions of users and find these statistical clusters. So they might notice that people who buy a specific brand of organic cotton sweaters and listen to a certain indie folk band.
And maybe read articles about national parks or something.
Exactly. They find that those people have, say, an 85% statistical probability of voting for a specific political party.
So the algorithm is essentially stereotyping you at scale based on your shopping cart.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And this is where the transparency completely falls apart. Imagine you're scrolling through Facebook. You see a highly specific, very aggressive political ad, and you click the little button that says, "Why am I seeing this ad?"
Oh, I've done that. The answers are useless.
Right. The platform gives you this wonderfully vague, sanitized answer. It might tell you that you're being targeted because you're 18 to 24 and interested in clothes.
Which is a complete smokescreen. You didn't consciously consent to your fashion habits being weaponized to manipulate your political views.
No, not at all.
The algorithm actively inferred your leanings based on 1,000 invisible data points, and it serves you an ad that maybe only a few thousand people will ever see.
Yes. There is no public billboard to point at. There is absolutely no shared reality.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's easy to see how this hyper-fragmented environment fuels the broader misinformation ecosystem that the News Literacy Project talks about.
Absolutely. Because when people are isolated in their own custom-built digital realities, they become incredibly susceptible to false narratives.
Yeah, so the News Literacy Project suggests a practical defense mechanism they call zoning your information.
Right, the zoning concept, it's really smart.
Instead of passively scrolling through whatever the algorithm serves you, you actively categorize the content in real time. You look at a post and ask, is this verified news? Is this an opinion piece? Is it an ad? Or is this just entertainment designed to get a reaction?
But, I mean, it requires fighting against the fundamental design of the platforms themselves. These systems are not built to curate a balanced, objective view of the world.
No, relying on a social media algorithm to feed you a balanced news diet is, well, it's like letting a casino design your nutritional plan.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. The casino does not care if you get your vitamins. They just want to keep you sitting at the table, pulling the lever, ordering free drinks. The algorithm is optimized purely for engagement.
And the data shows that nothing drives engagement quite like outrage and confirmation bias.
Exactly. And the News Literacy Project sources provided this perfect example of how the algorithm takes a single mundane incident and just allows it to congeal into a massive false narrative that keeps people pulling that lever.
Oh, you mean the Associated Press typo?
Yes. During a California primary, a human data entry clerk at the AP made a simple typographical error. They accidentally added a zero or hit the wrong key, and for about 30 minutes, candidate Steve Garvey was shown with an extra 900,000 votes on the New York Times website.
Before the AP caught the mistake and fixed it.
Right. A completely ordinary data entry mistake.
But within that 30-minute window, someone screenshotted the inflated number and posted it online.
And it went completely viral. I mean, people shared that screenshot as undeniable real-time proof that votes were being actively stolen or manufactured.
Because it snaps perfectly into a pre-existing conventional wisdom for certain groups. You know, that widespread voter fraud is constantly happening.
But we have to look at what the structural data actually says about that narrative.
Right. And the sources point to the Heritage Foundation, which is a prominent conservative think tank. They maintain a comprehensive database of proven voter fraud cases in the United States.
Right, going all the way back to 1979.
Yes. Across thousands of elections and billions of votes cast, they have found only about 1,500 proven cases nationwide.
Just 1,500 cases since 1979. And when you dig into the mechanics of those cases, it is rarely some grand, coordinated cyber conspiracy.
No, it's usually something really mundane and honestly sometimes tragic.
Yeah, like someone mailing in an absentee ballot for a spouse who recently passed away, thinking they knew how their loved one would have voted.
Exactly. The system catches it. It is illegal, obviously, but it is not a systemic hacking of the electoral framework. Yet a viral screenshot of a typo completely overrides decades of hard data.
And that kind of baseline manipulation is now being supercharged by generative artificial intelligence.
Oh, heavily. The News Literacy Project highlighted several specific instances where AI was deployed to deceive the public with fabricated audio and video.
Like the AI voice clone of Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Someone took completely authentic video footage of him doing a real interview on Fox News, but they cloned his voice and manipulated the audio track so it sounded exactly like him saying things he never actually said.
They also brought up the synthetic image of President Biden in military fatigues.
Oh, right, and the dramatic, highly detailed images of Donald Trump supposedly being arrested in New York.
Yeah. The crucial takeaway from the sources here is that our old methods of spotting these fakes are officially obsolete.
What do you mean?
Well, for a brief moment, you can zoom in on an AI-generated image and count the fingers. You can say, look, this person has 6 fingers. It's clearly an AI fake. That defense mechanism is dead.
Right. I want to make sure we understand the mechanism here. We aren't talking about someone using Photoshop to cut and paste a head onto a body anymore.
No. We're dealing with tools like OpenAI's Sora. Generative AI does not copy and paste existing photos. It operates on, like, a molecular level with data.
How does it build these fakes so perfectly, then?
It has analyzed millions of images to understand the mathematical relationship between pixels. When you prompt it to create a video of, say, a Tokyo street scene, it's predicting and generating synthetic pixels from scratch, frame by frame, based on its understanding of light, shadow, and geometry.
Wow.
And it creates a flawless, high-definition reality out of thin air. There are no extra fingers because the math has perfected the anatomy.
So if our minds and our perception of reality are this easily hacked by the software on our screens, we have to look at the physical screens themselves. Because access to this digital world is not equal, and the hardware in our pockets is tangled in a global geopolitical web.
And this is where Privacy International's research on global tech infrastructure becomes so vital. Right now, over 60 countries are in the process of permanently shutting down their older 2G internet networks.
Well, on the surface, that just sounds like routine infrastructure maintenance. I mean, we want faster internet, so we upgrade to 4G and 5G.
Right, but wireless spectrum is finite. Think of it like real estate or lanes on a highway. To build the new 5G lanes, telecom companies have to physically pave over the old 2G lanes to free up the spectrum space.
Which completely leaves behind anyone driving an older car, to use the analogy. Privacy International shared this anecdote about a 70-year-old street vendor in Vietnam who sells iced tea.
Yeah, that story was striking.
He relied on a basic 2G phone to communicate and run his small business. And when Vietnam turned off the 2G network to free up that spectrum, his phone instantly became a brick.
Just completely useless.
Exactly. He lost his connection to the digital world because he just could not afford to go out and buy a new 4G smartphone.
Now, Vietnam did try to mitigate the fallout. The government instituted programs to distribute free smartphones to affected citizens.
But the mechanism of aid often fails the most vulnerable, doesn't it?
It really does. The most marginalized people, the ones who desperately need a government phone to survive, are rarely integrated enough into the formal system to even know those programs exist, let alone navigate the bureaucracy to claim one.
Yeah. In the global south, a low-cost smartphone isn't some impulse buy at the electronics store. It can cost up to 30% of a person's entire monthly income.
Which forces a devastating compromise for the global poor.
Yeah.
Privacy International researchers actually went to a mall in Uganda and purchased one of the absolute cheapest smartphones on the market.
And on the outside, it looked like a standard device, right?
Yeah, it even prominently featured the Google Play Protect logo, giving it this veneer of security.
But when the researchers analyzed the underlying code, they found the phone was tacked with massive amounts of bloatware.
I need to pause here. What is bloatware actually doing while the user is just trying to check the weather or send a text?
So bloatware refers to pre-installed applications hidden deep in the phone's operating system that the user literally cannot delete.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And while the phone sits quietly in a pocket, these hidden apps are actively exfiltrating data. They are silently logging the user's location, scraping their contact list, tracking their keystrokes, and beaming all of that personal information to servers halfway across the world.
Because that data extraction is exactly how the manufacturer subsidizes the cheap cost of the hardware in the first place.
Exactly. The sources mention a Chinese company called Techno that does this in India. They manufacture highly localized, incredibly cheap phones for poorer communities.
But the low price tag at the store is an illusion. A total illusion. The company recoups its manufacturing costs by systematically extracting and selling the user's behavioral data to third parties.
So if you are poor, you are literally forced to pay for your basic internet access with your privacy.
Yeah.
It sounds like we treat privacy as a luxury upgrade, like leather seats in a car, rather than a basic human right. How does this scale up to governments?
Well, that raises an important point regarding how governments and massive corporations leverage that same dynamic. International aid used to be framed through a lens of pure altruism. Today, it is highly transactional, and it's inextricably linked to data collection and surveillance infrastructure.
The scale of the money moving around is staggering. The sources note the U.S. recently cut roughly $60 to $70 billion in foreign aid.
And when aid is distributed globally now, there are significant technological strings attached. Privacy International documented a specific case where the European Union sent substantial funds to North Africa.
Let me guess, it wasn't just for food and water.
Right. On paper, the funds were packaged as an Africa Trust Fund, designed for humanitarian aid in development. In practice, a massive portion of that money was diverted to purchase and implement advanced surveillance programs to track migrant populations and restrict their movement.
So the humanitarian aid was basically repurposed as a vehicle for biometric data extraction and border control.
Precisely. And the big tech companies hold so much infrastructural power in this dynamic that they actively use it as a shield against regulation.
Like the ongoing antitrust case against Google.
Yes. The U.S. government is trying to force Google to break off its Chrome browser to prevent a digital monopoly.
But Google's defense in court isn't just about business, right? They are explicitly arguing that their massive monopolistic size is actually vital for U.S. national security.
It is such a fascinating pivot. Google is arguing that because their infrastructure is so vast and deeply embedded globally, they are uniquely positioned to constantly scan other global networks for vulnerabilities and cyber threats.
So they are telling the government, if you break us up, America becomes less safe.
Exactly. They are positioning their corporate data monopoly as an inseparable component of the state's security apparatus.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. We have talked about data being weaponized to manipulate votes and data being extracted to subsidize cheap hardware. But what happens when that exact same reliance on data is weaponized to make literal life and death decisions?
This brings us to the deployment of AI on the modern battlefield. Military forces are increasingly relying on what they believe is perfect data to automate warfare.
Yeah.
The sources examine the Israel Defense Forces' use of AI targeting systems, specifically through Unit 8200, during operations in Gaza.
Hold on, I'm a bit confused about the mechanics here. I know in the West Bank, Israel operates a massive network of facial recognition cameras and biometric checkpoints, but they didn't have that physical infrastructure installed inside Gaza. If they don't have facial recognition, how does an AI system identify a specific person as a military target?
That's the terrifying part. Because they lacked visual biometric data, the AI models had to rely heavily on telecommunications data. They tracked the movement of mobile phone signals.
Oh, I see.
The mechanism involves triangulating cell towers to see where a specific SIM card is moving. The AI looks for patterns, like, is this phone moving alongside other phones known to belong to militants? Does this phone visit known militant locations?
And the AI processes those metadata patterns and generates a target.
Yes. And initially, military officials were reportedly ecstatic about this capability.
The sources note they actually compared it to the Matrix, this seductive idea that an algorithm could cleanly and objectively identify targets based purely on math, removing human passion, fatigue, or error from the equation.
But that initial excitement faded rapidly as the reality of relying on circumstantial telecommunications data set in.
Well, yeah, because the AI is ultimately just a machine making a statistical guess based on a phone ping. What if a civilian happens to live next door to a militant and their phones ping the same cell tower every night?
The AI flags it.
And the human oversight was practically non-existent. The source highlighted that human reviewers were approving these AI-generated targets in just 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
3 seconds. You can't even read a paragraph in 3 seconds, let alone verify the contextual intelligence of a bombing target.
Which means it is not meaningful human review. It is merely the illusion of oversight to satisfy protocol. The human becomes a rubber stamp for the machine.
It's chilling.
And to truly understand the catastrophic flaw in believing that robust data leads to perfect decisions, we have to examine the U.S. drone strike in Kabul, Afghanistan.
The mechanics of that failure are just heartbreaking. The U.S. military had an enormous amount of data on a specific man. They tracked him all day using advanced surveillance.
They intercepted communications in the area. They watched his movements from a drone overhead. They gathered gigabytes of telemetry.
And the drone operators watched him loading heavy canisters into the trunk of his vehicle. The data was processed, human commanders reviewed the feed, and they authorized a strike they confidently labeled a righteous kill.
Because the surveillance equipment functioned perfectly. The drone captured high-resolution video. The failure was entirely in the interpretation of the data.
Right, because the man was not a terrorist loading explosives. He was an engineer working for an American humanitarian organization.
And those heavy canisters he was loading, he was filling them with water to bring home to his family because their neighborhood lacked running water.
The algorithm and the military observers saw the pattern of a man loading heavy items into a car in a conflict zone, and they stripped away all human context. The strike killed him and 10 innocent people, including several young children. It is the ultimate tragic failure of this technocratic dream that more data equals objective truth.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast between how AI fails in these high-stakes military environments and how eagerly we are integrating the exact same pattern recognition technology into our intimate personal lives.
Yes. The Privacy International podcast discussed a review from The Verge regarding the new AI pin. Have you seen this thing?
Oh, yes. It's a physical, wearable device you pin to your shirt, and its entire purpose is to constantly record audio and transcribe your daily life using AI.
We are voluntarily wearing this surveillance infrastructure.
We really are.
The review detailed some interactions that are both hilarious and deeply unsettling. The reviewer for The Verge forgot she was wearing the AI pin and accidentally wore it into the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she didn't mute it. The pin happily recorded and transcribed the audio of her in the bathroom. And later that afternoon, the AI cheerfully generated a helpful notification reminding her to start taking her lactate pills again because her dairy intolerance symptoms had clearly returned.
Wow. It is the absolute pinnacle of surveillance capitalism, entirely disguised as personal convenience.
And it goes beyond just bodily functions. She wore the pin on public transit, and it secretly transcribed the private conversations of strangers sitting near her on the bus.
That's a massive privacy violation.
And later, it perfectly transcribed an argument she had with a family member. She noted that instead of resolving the conflict, having a flawless verbatim transcript of every single word said during the fight just caused her to ruminate and dwell on the negative.
I can imagine.
It made me realize, isn't forgetting actually a crucial feature of the human brain rather than a bug?
That is a profound point. Human memory is naturally porous for a reason. If we outsource our memory to a machine that rigidly captures every single flaw, every misspoken word, and every petty argument, we paralyze our emotional processing.
We lose our natural ability to forgive, to let things go, and to move forward.
Exactly. We hand these systems power because we think they are capturing an objective reality, but they are just blindly hoovering up data without any understanding of the human condition.
Yeah.
And the underlying psychology is identical. The blind faith we place in military AI to make a flawless targeting decision in a complex war zone is the exact same blind faith we exercise when we allow a wearable machine to record our bathroom habits and mediate our family arguments.
We suffer from a dangerous overestimation of what these machines actually comprehend.
Well said.
So, bring this all together for you, the learner. We have journeyed from the invisible algorithms micro-targeting your political views through your shopping habits, to the global south where bloatware exfiltrates data from the poorest citizens just so they can afford a phone, all the way to AI systems making horrific, context-blind errors in life-or-death military strikes.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But the through line connecting all of this is clear. Data is power. And placing blind trust in the automated systems processing that data is incredibly dangerous.
But you are not powerless in this ecosystem. The News Literacy Project offers concrete, actionable advice for navigating this digital murkiness.
Right, like what?
First, actively look for signs of standards-based journalism. Quality organizations strive for impartiality down to their vocabulary. For example, the Associated Press recently updated its style guide to explicitly avoid using the word clean to describe a person's sobriety.
Oh, recognizing that it unfairly implies that addiction is dirty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That level of linguistic care is a hallmark of credible information.
Second, practice lateral reading. If someone sends you a link to a voting resource like Vote 411, do not just trust the About page on that specific website. Open a new tab, search for the organization in quotes, and see what outside credible news sources say about them. Verify the source from the outside in.
Yes, that is crucial.
And finally, when you are dealing with family members or friends who have fallen down a misinformation rabbit hole, give them a PEEP talk, not a cheerleader speech, but PEP. Patience, empathy, and persistence. You cannot just throw a fact-check link at someone and expect them to abandon a belief tied to their identity.
No, it requires time and real offline human connection, which, crucially, is the one thing the algorithms cannot replicate or automate.
So what does this all mean?
Well, we just spent this deep dive analyzing how AI is currently being deployed to generate flawless synthetic images, clone human voices, and pump out highly targeted, fabricated political ads that are flooding the internet every second. But remember the mechanism of how these models learn. The next generation of artificial intelligence will be trained on the data that is currently sitting on the internet today.
Oh, wow.
If our digital world is already deeply polluted with synthetic, micro-targeted realities and deep fakes, will the AI of tomorrow be entirely detached from human truth? Will we find ourselves relying on omnipotent systems that are essentially hallucinating a reality built entirely on the digital lies of the past?
Which brings us right back to that medical X-ray machine we talked about at the very beginning. If the film is flawed, and the machine reading the film was trained on thousands of illusions, we might be looking right at a shattered bone and being confidently told by the machine that everything is perfectly fine. Keep questioning the picture you are being shown. Keep digging into the mechanisms. Keep learning. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the hidden mechanics of our digital world, and we'll catch you next time.
For more episodes related to media, social media, tech, and privacy, visit our YouTube channel, Independent Thinker LLC.